right, we're going to now move into properties and operations. You're going to use these properties of addition and multiplication to solve problems. Okay, who can tell me what the word commute means? Anybody here know what the word commute means? Yes?
You can put it in any order. You don't have to add it and subtract it, multiply it in the way that it's written.
So that is how we can use it in math terms, okay? How do people use the word commute in English? I mean, what does it mean when people commute? Yes, Ms. North.
Like, we commute from home to school every morning.
Next, very good. It means to change locations. Good, good. And how about associate? Who knows what the word associate means outside of math? Yes?
It means, like, who you interacted with and been around, like you've met them before.
Okay. So associate, when you say associating with someone who you group with, who you go and spend time with. Okay, the words have similar meanings in mathematics. Commutative properties let you change the position of numbers in a sum or product. Associative properties let you group numbers in a sum or product together. So we're going to go over these properties and give an examples. Commutative and associative properties are the two properties that we're going to be discussing today. Commutative and associative. The first one is commutative property of addition. In a sum, you can add the numbers in any order. 4 plus -7 is equal to the same as -7 plus 4. In algebra, A plus B is equal to B plus A. Next, we have the commutative property of multiplication. In a product, you can multiply the numbers in any order. 8 times -5 is equal to -5 times 8. In algebra, A times B is equal to B times A. Next, we're going to read the property, associative property of addition. Changing the grouping of the numbers in a sum does not change the sum. In the example, 9 plus 6 is grouped, plus 2 is equal to 9 plus 6 plus 2 is in a group. In algebra, A plus B grouped plus C is equal to A plus B plus C in a group. Now, in the associative property of multiplication, changing the grouping of the numbers in a product, that, changing the grouping of the numbers in a product does not change the product. So if you have 3 times 10 in a group times 4, it is equal to 3 times 10 times 4. In algebra, you can have AB group times C, and that's going to be equal to A times B times C in a group. All right, so let's use this in problem solving. An example 1, music. You buy a portable, I don't know what a DC player is, that should be a CD player, for $48. Rechargeable batteries with the charger for $25 and a CD case for $12. Find the total cost. And I wrote it wrong again. Okay, now that we have that taken care of, they want you to find the total cost. So in the solution, the total cost is the sum of the 3 prices. We're going to use the properties of addition to group together prices that are easy to understand mentally, that you can do it without having to work it on paper. Doesn't mean you can't work it on paper, but I'm trying to show you a strategy to where you cannot or do not have to work on paper. All right, so we have 48 plus 25 plus 12 equal to. So the first step, order of operations. When you add or subtract from left to right. 48 plus 25 plus 12. Then I'm going to do the commutative property of addition. You see how I switched or moved the numbers. Then the next property I did was the associative property. I associated the 48 and the 12. So, let me write, this could be considered the associative property. I move them and I use the commutative property. All right. So now, some of you, most of you, can do mentally in your head 48 plus 12, which is 60. And then take 60 and add 25, and you'll get $85. So the total cost of those items are $85. All right. So in example 2, we're going to use properties for multiplication. So you are asked to evaluate, which means to solve, for xy when x is equal to -7 and y is equal to 25. So the first thing you do is you substitute your variables. You substitute -7 for x and 25 for y. Then, as I've noted, put in your notes, use the order of operations. Then the next line, the commutative property of multiplication. Then we use the associative property of addition. Associative property of multiplication. Goodness. Because we can associate 4 and 25 together. We can multiply those two together. Then you would have -7 times 100. -7 times 100 is -700. So we use the order of operation, the commutative property of multiplication, the associative property of multiplication to get our answer. Any questions on any of this? All right. So now we're going to evaluate the expression. So we're going to use the properties that were given to us or taught to us. So order of operations, we're going to add 17 and 36 first. But what property could we use in order to solve this mentally? Negative. Okay, you could do associative. And which two would you move or change using the associative property? Okay, so we're going to do the commutative property also because we're going to commute them. So we'll put those in parentheses plus 36. So 17 plus 13 is what, class? 30. And then our answer would be 66. Now I do expect you to show your work, especially when we're using these properties, so that you can demonstrate that you understand what these properties mean. All right, so in number 2, we're multiplying, so we use the properties also, commutative and associative. Someone new tell me which they would associate or commute. Right. Frank?
8 and 5.
8 and 5, so you're going to commute them, right? And then 8 times 5 is 40. And then can you do this in your head? -120. Frank, thank you. All right, so number 3, we're dealing with decimals. Yes, Madison.
I would add 3.4 and 7.6.
So you're going to commute them.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Then we're going to associate them. All right. So 3 and 4/10 plus 7 and 6/10 is 11. Again, you will show this in your work. And this will equal
20.6.
I'll really encourage you to write these notes down. All right, here we go. So we're going to do number 4 now. Evaluate 5x squared y when x is -6 and y is 20. So we're going to substitute x, which is -6, squared, and y, which is 20. First of all, we're going to need to simplify before we use our properties. Now Tell me which property we would use next, someone that I have not heard from. Yes?
Commutative.
Commutative, good. So I'm going to commute. Is this correct? Is this what you were speaking of? Okay. Then you would do what?
Associative.
Okay. So, associate those two. 5 times 20 is?
40.
5 times 20 is? 100. And because you know that anything times a multiple of 10, your answer is going to be what class? 3600. So now, using properties, example 3, using properties to simplify variable expressions. Now we're going to be using the same steps, the order of operations, the associative property of addition. We have, the only thing that's different is we have a variable in here. So the original problem is x plus 3 plus 6. Demonstrated to you x plus 3, order of operations. Next, we can use the associative property of addition. To simplify this, the x plus 9. That's simplifying this equation because you can't go any farther because you have no idea what x is. So when you were instructed to simplify, this is what they're asking. So in B, this is the original problem. You're instructed to simplify. So when you simplify, 4 times 8 is going to be 32y. And that will be your answer. Okay, so now we're going to simplify 5, 6, 7, and 8. Go ahead and do that at your desk, showing step by step each of the properties that we've been discussing. Even though you can do it in your head, you need to be able to demonstrate the properties. This, having the variable first, is preferred, as you'll notice in each of these. Oops. But you'll notice this is the correct way to write it when multiplying. So identity properties. Here's another type of property that you've always done in your head, but it has a property call to it. It has a name. When 0 is added to any number, or when any number is multiplied by 1, the result is identical to the original number. These properties of 0 and 1 are called identity properties. And the numbers 0 and 1 are called identities. Let me read that again for you. These are called identity properties. When 0 is added to any number, or when any number is multiplied by 1, the result is identical to the original number. These properties 0 and 1 are called identity properties, and the numbers 0 and 1 are called identities. So, in our example, the sum of a number and the additive identity 0 is the number. So in your example, -6 plus 0 is -6. A is equal to A plus, my goodness, A plus 0, please correct that in your notes. A plus 0 is equal to A. I caught myself checking, but I did not do a very good job of checking. Okay, in the identity property of multiplication, the product of a number and the multiplicative identity 1 is the number. 4 times 1 is 4. 8 times 1 is 8. All right, in our example, I'll ask you to help me identify these properties in A, B, C, and D. All right, who can tell me what property is being demonstrated in A? Megan? Identity property of, very good. B? Somebody else? Conrad?
It is commutative property of addition.
Thank you. C? Yes?
Identity property of addition.
And last is going to be associative property of multiplication. So, despite the typographical errors and the arithmetic errors, I believe you have been taught several properties of associative and commutative and identity properties. This begins our chapter 2.